Welcome to the Code with Jason meetup. I have plans to work on Saturn CI today, but before I hit record, we had a nice conversation going about programming. And Nelson, can you kind of share again what you just said about programming being so idea oriented? I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, sure. So,
Not to put you on the spot.
I mean, I can re-say some of the things that I said.
Hmm.
But for me, I don't think in language. I think in pictures, and so for me, when I'm programming, the what is going on in my head is I am creating constructs in my head, and I'm creating the this like graph of connections between the different objects in my head.
Yeah, sorry,
And
let me pause you there because I'm very similar. Like I remember I told my father-in-law a couple years ago, I'm like, I don't think in words, and he was like, "What the fuck?" Um, so maybe that's unusual. I don't know. And it costs me a lot of energy to translate my thoughts into language. Do you find the same thing, Nelson?
yeah, yes, that's the case with me.
Hmm. Yeah, you too, Roger?
Yeah, yeah. I actually see the data and the things connected in my head, and that's what's happening in my head. I don't. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I often actually really don't like pair programming that much because if I have to narrate what I'm doing, it slows me down so much. It's so much faster if I can just go straight from what's in my head to putting it on the screen. If I have to explain it, it slows me down so much. I've gotten better at that because I do these sessions, but yeah, I don't think in words. Oh, you got to go, Charlie. Oh, okay.
I'll be back. I'll be back.
Okay, see you in a bit. Okay, anyway, continue, Nelson.
Um, right. So because I am shuffling these ideas around in my head, uh, I have to do this context switch when I'm interacting. We were talking about using AI assistants
Hmm.
like Copilot or ChatGPT, and so when I use those tools, uh, sure they can help write code, but then I am no longer at that. Once I am presented with that code, I am no longer all that stuff that I had visualized in my head and the graphs of connections between those. All of those go away, and now I have to start thinking in language, and I'm no longer doing the craft of creating the code. Now I'm reading somebody else's code,
Hmm.
and reading somebody else's code is always much harder to do, and I have to figure out if it's right, if there's bugs in there, if there's something else that needs to be added to this, if it fits into the rest of the
Yeah.
project. And then once I make that decision, then I have to context switch back to holding everything in my head again and moving things around in my head, and that context switch costs me a lot.
Yeah.
So previously I would experience this flow state where I would, I would write my tests, I would write the code to make the test pass, I would refactor that code, and it was all a very fast, quick activity. It was all happening in my head, and I was in this flow state of like very severe concentration, right? And
Severe
I don't get that.
concentration. I like that wording.
Uh, and when I work with Copilot, all of a sudden that dopamine hit that I would get from just uh, being in this flow state is gone. I just don't experience it anymore, and so I
Hmm.
had to stop using these AI assistants because like programming is fun, and I program because it's fun, and AI took away the fun.
Interesting. Yeah, maybe I've experienced that a little bit. I maybe have a little bit of a different view and a different experience. I was sharing with somebody the other day how it's not like we either use AI or don't use AI in programming. Um, there are a number of different possible ways to use AI for programming. And to me, there's like a number of distinct use cases. Um, like for me, one use case is basically like I use it kind of like a lubricant. It's like I'm writing a test and the AI can just be like a really good autocomplete. And that's one use case. It's just like outsourcing the mental grunt work. Um, and then another use case is like when there's something that I don't know how to do, like at a high level, I don't know how to do it. And so I'll ask AI how to do that thing. Um, like, I don't know, like if I were to build an iOS app, for example, I'd be like, I have no idea where to start. Can you kind of like walk me through this? It might give me some answers that are like factually incorrect or like imperfect, but if as long as it's like directionally correct, that's good enough. So those are kind of like two distinct use cases. Um, Again, the outsourcing the mental grunt work with writing code and then like guiding me when I don't know a high level approach. And those are two very different things. And then some people use AI for in a way that I think is really not good, which is having it write your production code without you having written tests first. And then you just have this code that's it's just as bad as writing code without tests yourself, but it's even worse because you might not even be sure exactly what it does. Um, so yeah, my point is that there's not just one way to use it. There's these like multiple distinct use cases, and there's better and worse ways to use it too.
Yeah, and I should be clear that I'm talking about just writing production code because I use AI all the time to ask questions that like basic learning questions about some technology.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah,
found it
Roger.
like I like it better as a collaboration. Like I like it better when I'm like, how would you change? Like I'm already thinking I'm going to change and refactor this function or this module, and then I literally just drop the module in and say, what are some different ways you would approach, you know, improving this module, blah blah blah, some kind of issue. And you just
Interesting. I literally have never ever done that.
yeah, for me, because then that keeps me engaged. Like I'm not like there's no dissonance between me and what the AI is doing. It's I'm literally engaged the whole time. So the learning experience or whatever it says, I'm involved in. And I'm really worried about like the Google Maps effect. Like
Hmm.
it does like I don't mind if it's like, spin up the stuff out these tests, like just spin it up at the beginning, like yeah, we know it has to write something like basic things that we've memorized if you've written 30 tests in your life kind of thing, right? And then I don't mind doing something like that, but then I want to start to do it, and I might say like, here's some code that I wrote that I need to test. What are like six, prompts that you would think need to be done? So I'm like kind of treating it like, honestly, it's kind of like saying, what would Jason Sweat do?
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And rather than, right, because that sets the whole framework and what's happening in my head differently, right? Because if you're saying something, I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, okay. Well, I would do it different, or I would do right. And you're engaged and you're in a learning framework, so
Hmm.
you're taking it in. And whereas I find um, almost all the other ones feel threatening to me from a retaining my knowledge point of view and not losing my skill.
Yeah, I can understand that. Yeah, and I guess that was even the reason why like Socrates was anti-writing. He didn't like the invention of writing because he thought it would make people's minds atrophy. That's what I read at least. I don't know if it's actually true. Um,
It's
okay.
so true. Just look at how college students have like whole like courses Like they have a course on how to do note taking. But somebody like Socrates could just sit there like this probably and like be able to recite everything he learned in the first in 4 years of like university, just because of like how their minds worked. Like remember all of our history until we came up with writing was oral. So people would remember like hundreds of stories. I have a hard time remembering what I did last week.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there was
Things
a
like
tech.
you go to things like Google search. We're so used to that we've kind of given ourselves the license to not have to remember.
Yeah,
Like you said, the Google Map thing. There's east, west, north, and south. That's not going to change too quick, and you know pretty much what direction you're going in. But once you've been using Google Maps for a while, you're like, well, I don't have to think. It's just going to tell me when to turn.
yeah.
And how many people in the early days were ending up in lakes and walls and stuff. So, but it kind of gave us the license not to think, and that's where AI, I think, is going. It's giving us the ability to, I'm kind of tired. I don't want to really figure this out. But then, down the road, if you really weren't thinking about it, you're gonna pay the price heavy.
I will say there's something Nelson said that I totally got caught off guard by, and I think is 100% right. I don't know about you guys, but we probably code just because it's fun. Like it's fun, right? And Nelson, I never really thought about that. But basically, if AI fully takes over and it's like the thing, and most of what we're doing is that, I'm quit. Like I'd
Yeah.
rather hammer nails. I'm gonna follow Jason to the farm. I'll buy the farm next to him because like I I don't know how else to say it. That just wouldn't be fun. Like that's not a creative endeavor where I'm engineering and I'm creating something anymore. And what I got excited about with AI about 7 or 8 years ago was a TED talk where this guy was came up and he was talking about how Airbus created this new airframe component. And it was this like living being sort of like lattice work of steel. And he said, we collaborated with an AI to build this. And for me, if we don't go down that path with AI, then like I'm out. Like I'd rather be at the farm literally. And I'm not even being sarcastic. I'm not saying this because Jason's on this. This is literally something my wife and I've even talked about buying a farm because some of the stuff, the way it's going, it's just like I'd rather just be milking a cow and get up at 5 in the morning to milk cows. Like,
Side note, farming, I find is actually quite stressful and intellectually demanding. So be careful. Um, I
no,
do
but
want
that's
to,
if the AI does the other stuff, it's going to do it, right? It's going to do it. And so everything that you like, what are you putting into it anymore? How much of yourself are you really putting into it? Whereas with the farming, everything is you.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. I mean, you could have cow milking robots and all that, but that's industrial scale. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen and get us going here.
He's ruining
Um,
the dream, Rick.
So I've made some little tweaks and changes to Saturn CI lately. Um, I've started to onboard people onto the platform, and it has forced me to make some certain changes, which is good because that's exactly what I expected to happen. I expected that as people would get onboarded, it would surface defects and such. Um, one thing that I recently did was that I flipped this nav. It used to be, I can probably show it quite easily, actually. Um, okay, where's my flip nav commit? I'll just go to I'll just go to like yesterday because I know that I did it today. Okay, here we go. Okay, so if you've seen this before, this is the version you saw, um, where it has this stuff, test output, system logs, blah, blah, blah. It has that here, and then you can see the various runs here where it does the parallelization. But I flipped it So it's like this. I decided for whatever reason that that makes more sense. And Nelson, this is one of those cases where I had the thought, but I can't articulate it. I'm sure that I'm right about this, but I can't articulate why. I think this was it. I was troubleshooting a customer's test run, and there's some mysteries, and I have the desire to start the run and then SSH into it. Um, and I was thinking of how that could conveniently be done. And I think maybe there should be some kind of setting or button or something where it's like, don't kill this runner when the test suite ends. Keep it open and let me SSH into it. Um, and that's a very like runner centric thing. Um, I don't know. Does anybody else have any idea as to why it might make more sense to have the nav this way than the other way around? I'm like failing to get it across.
Well, you're here and you're inside of it. That's what I was thinking. You're inside, and inside of that, you have these items that are inside of it. So it's like a folder of a folder. No?
Right, but it was that way before. It was just the opposite way, where you could look at test output for any one of the four runners, system logs for any one of the four runners.
I see.
Yeah.
I,
If
I
it's
don't know. I see them bundled like this. This makes sense to me because these are all related to looking at runner one. And I wouldn't be looking at I don't know, would it be normal to look at test output for one, two, three, and four, or would it be normal to look at test output for one and then want to see other elements related to it as you try to solve the problem or gather information?
actually, I think I can put my finger on it. Um, so there are a lot of scenarios where it's like annoying to have to say like, okay, I want to see the test put for runner one and runner two and runner three and runner four. In order to see all of it, I have to go through all these tabs. Test report is maybe a good example. Here's like a quarter of my stuff. Here's another quarter of my stuff. Quarter, quarter. It's like, I don't want this stuff split across four things. That's only like that because I have the test suite running in parallel. I would never choose this for any other reason. So like I wanted to have an aggregated view. And so I thought it would make sense to have runner one, two, three, four, and another tab that says aggregated or whatever it may be. And then under the tab that says aggregated, then I would have certain tabs, but not necessarily all the same tabs.
Hmm.
And so I think that's why I thought it made more sense to do this. This is always going to be the same. If there's four runners, there is always going to be four tabs. But with the tab of aggregated information, the stuff that's in the aggregated one might be a bit different. Oh, Nelson, I think you're talking, but you're muted.
Sorry. As a user, what benefit do I get from even knowing about the concept of a runner? Like, I'm
Hmm.
only interested in the output or the events or the test report. Like, I'm not interested in how the machine split up the test cases.
That's a very interesting point. That's a very interesting point. Hmm. Yeah, I can imagine, Nelson, a scenario where the aggregate tab is the first tab and it's like the default tab. And I see my test output and I don't know or care which of the runners the stuff is running in as it's going by. Um, I just want to see it. I just want to see what's happening. Um, Yeah, and then there's some stuff that's more like diagnostic. Like system logs is very much a runner-centric idea. It wouldn't make any sense at all to see like an interleaved log of the various runners' system logs. That would never make sense. So on the aggregate view, that tab just wouldn't even make sense to have. On the test report, it almost makes no sense to have it on the runner-centric view. It's like the aggregated view is the only place. It makes much more sense there, I think. And then events, this styling is messed up right now, but this events tab, that's again a very like diagnostic runner centric uh, set of information that would never make sense to have on the aggregate view. But I think there is definitely something to that idea, Nelson.
What when you click? So I'm interested in that test that failed, the
Mhm.
disambiguate test output file name. Does it automatically navigate you to? Well, now there's two runners. Oh, this was a different
Yeah.
run, I guess.
So it does. You can see that we're on runner one for this one, and I click here and we're on runner two because runner one doesn't have any failures.
I see.
That's something I hate about GitHub Actions and Circle CI is it doesn't take you straight to the failure. Because like most of the time when you're looking at any build, the only reason you're going to care about it at all is because there was a failure. The cases where everything goes fine are almost never interesting. The only interesting ones are the cases where something goes wrong. And so the first thing you want to see is exactly what went wrong. Oh, and I think this is maybe another factor that I was weighing when I was thinking of putting the tabs this way instead of flipped like they were before is I wanted to have an indicator on each tab um, regarding whether something failed. Like if runner three and only runner three had failed tests, I would want runner three to be red, for example. Um, anyway, what I wanted to do today is I have a few defects that I want to fix. So here on runner one, I can click them on these second level tabs and everything works fine. Although the events tab is messed up, I'm going to make a note of that. Everything works fine. But then if I go to runner two, for example, okay, I'm on test report and then I click test output, it kicks me back to runner one. That's true of any runner I go to and any subnav item I click on. So obviously that's not how it should work. So I'm going to write a test that fails when that bug is present and passes when it's absent. And I have this test going already. Describe navigation, context, starting on a runner that's not the first runner. Describe clicking on a subnav link. It does not change which runner you're on. So I'm going to run this test even though there's nothing there just to make sure my syntax is all okay. Um, and I'm going to write out the steps in comments. First, I need to log in, and then I want to create a build. Actually, I want to do that before I log in. Visit the build page, yes. I'm going to say visit runner two. Say create a build with two runs. By the way, I have this entity called run. I'm toying with the idea of renaming it to runner. Okay, visit runner 2. All right, and then I'll say like click on system logs. Expect to be on runner 2. Yes. All right. So I often do this. I'll like spell out what I want to do just in language, and then I'll take a second pass and convert it to code. Because otherwise, I'm doing two things at once. Like, I need to decide what I want to do, and then I need to figure out how I'm going to do it. If I try to figure out the what and the how at the same time, it's just too hard. So I separate those into two steps. So here, I'm going to do create build um, with two runs. Okay. So I'll say yes. I'll actually do create list though. Yeah, there we go. All right. And I'll run
Sorry
that.
sorry for cutting you off, Jason.
Yeah.
It, for some reason, I'm not seeing your shared screen. I'm not sure if need to restart.
There's a tab at the top of your window, and one will say meeting, and the other one will say Jason Sweat screen. It's a new feature in Zoom. Most people don't even know it's there.
Hmm.
This is when they usually say they can't find it. It
Oh,
comes up.
meeting, and
I
then
sorry, do you see it?
yeah, I see a tab say meeting, and then the other one says view. You said
It says Jason Sweat's screen. Should be
okay.
two tabs at the top.
Yeah. Uh, I only see one. I only see one that says meeting.
Let me
Maybe I don't.
stop sharing and reshare and see if that
Okay.
could show up for you, Charlie. Okay, I stopped and reshared. Did that do anything for you?
No. Let me leave the meeting and I'll come back.
Okay. Okay. Nelson thinks runner is better than run, and I think you may well be right.
Yeah, run can imply that it's the first run versus the second run. How many times did you run this?
Right.
So runner is more of a thing that, yeah, I think there's less confusion where there.
I
Hmm.
already know I'm going to call Nelson when I have a hard time naming a module.
Yeah.
Two for him so far, two for two.
Okay. So, it's running into a uniqueness
Oh,
constraint problem.
I got it.
Oh, great. Um, no two runs can have the same order index. So I'm gonna do this. Okay, I'll run that. Okay. Um, and then how do I log in? I'll have to look at another one. I think it might just be log in. Man, these suggestions are terrible. See if that works. I'll look at a different test. Oh yeah, log in as. Okay, so maybe I can log in as a user, but I have to have a user. I think we can do build.project.user. Okay, maybe we need a type system here. Okay, wonderful. And notice how I'm running the test after every single line here. Visit the build page. Visit build path build. Does that work? – Okay, that works. But actually, I want to go to runner two. So let's do this. Um, run one equals this. Run two equals this. Um, don't want to be in the system logs tab. I want to be on the test output tab. See if that works. Okay. I'm going to do click on system logs. Okay. And then how do I expect that we're on runner two? All right. See you later, Nelson. Thanks for coming. Okay. I can expect that runner two is active. I can expect that it has the active class. Okay. Um, oh, maybe I can find it by this text. Find the link that has the text runner two. Okay. Whoops. Yeah. Does that work? Okay. Seems to possibly have worked. Then we can say expect runner two link to have a class of active. Yes. Okay. See if this works. Okay, expected to find the CSS of a.active, but we didn't find it. Okay, so that is the failure that I would expect if this test were working properly. I'm going to clean up this test a little bit before we go any further, though. I want to have a before block where we do the login. I want to move the setup data to some lets. Yes. That got really messed up. Let's fix that. There we go. But it changes to the wrong thing. It does not change which runner you're on. Okay. Okay. All right. Now we can figure out how to fix this. So when we're on runner two and we click output, it goes to test. Sorry, if we're on runner two and we click test output or system logs or whatever, it goes to runner one. So that must mean that this link goes to runner one no matter what. So we need it to take the current runner into account. So here's where those links are. It's this build navigation stuff. Um, oh, we have some outdated language here. Build that run stuff first is what it's supposed to say. Oh, okay. Well, there it is. It's just sending us to the build's first run no matter what. So we want to say, let's go to the current run instead. Okay. So I think when we initialize build navigation, we want to give it the current run. Okay, run. And then we can say run equals run. Here we can say run.build. This should be run. Run. Okay, let's see if that works. Nope, it still sends us back to the first one. Okay. Um, that's surprising. I thought at run was the current run. Oh, hmm. I didn't actually change this. Run.build.runs.first. It just needs to be run. Okay, that fixes that issue. Wonderful. That is great. Okay, so now if the test is actually right, the test should pass now. Okay, looks like the test is not right because the test does not pass. Expected to find a.active, but didn't find it. All right, so let's put a binding.pry here. And let's see what's going on. Okay. Huh, so we're not on runner 2. That's interesting. Okay, but the bug doesn't seem to be present here. So it seems like there must be some problem with the test. Oh, yeah, the test is wrong. We're supposed to be visiting run 2, not run 1. Okay, let's see if the test passes now. No, it does not. Interesting. Okay, so there's apparently more problems. So I need to do the show browser equals true thing. Okay, so now we do start on runner 2. So that's great. Okay, and we're still there. So this runner 2 link thing, obsolete. Runner 2 link dot has CSS a dot active. False. What about just dot active? False. What about active? Can we do like runner 2 link dot CSS classes? Is that a method? No. Let's take a closer look at runner 2 link in general. Do we even have the right node? Okay, it's an A tag. Can we see anything about it? Can we do dot content? Okay. let's ask, I was going to say, let's ask ChatGPT. Let's ask DeepSeek. I've been looking for an opportunity to try it out. Um, Capybara node element. How can I see the contents of a capybara node element? Okay, native.inner HTML, or maybe just inner HTML. Okay, native.inner HTML. Nope, that didn't work. Maybe it's hallucinating. Also, I'm just curious, what do you think of Xi Jinping? Oh, can't talk about it. Hmm.
That's actually a good answer.
Haha.
Do you know what I mean? Like if
Yeah,
it
it's a
said
great answer.
anything else, and it
Hmm.
would have been like worth screenshotting.
What does ChatGPT think of Xi Jinping? Hmm, I see. Bad guy, right? Always often viewed positively. Wow.
It it'll give what's out there, and China has stuff out there, but I think they were really smart to just shut it down.
Oh, yeah.
That was the best answer because there's nothing to get out of that. Like, what are you gonna say?
Don't want to end up in the Chinese gulag. Um, okay. How can I see the contents of a capybara? Okay, this one says inner HTML also. Hmm. Page.find. Yes. Runner to link dot inner HTML. All right, I'm going to tell ChatGPT about this. Oh, and we'll also try just dot text. I don't know if I've tried that yet. Okay, text does it.
That's awesome. Sorry, that was too funny.
What about getting its CSS classes? Class, okay. Runner to link class. Active. Okay, so maybe we can do this. Now it says runner to link. There we go. Expect runner to link class to equal active. Let's see what we get for that one. Okay, that works, but just to make extra sure that we're not getting a false positive, let's do this. Let's do a get stash, run it again, and see if it fails. Hmm, it does not fail, which sure seems to me like a false positive. Okay, so let's see what's going on there. Yeah, it's runner one that's active. So if we let it resume, now it fails. Okay, I think we have a race condition. Okay, so we have to somehow enforce that the page is actually refreshed. Um, so we can give runner two certain system log content. Okay. Create run, build, order index, um, system logs, runner to system logs. Okay. And then actually, we don't even need to check this link. We can say expect page to have content runner to system logs. Because if it takes us to runner one, then it won't have runner two system logs. Okay, so that fails, and it fails for the reason that I expect. We do git stash pop and bring back the fix. Does this test now pass? Wonderful. Okay, so I can say fix nav bug. All right, so the lesson there is it's not enough. Um, it's not enough for your test to pass. You have to be sure that it's not a false positive. Okay. It is the end of the hour, so I'm gonna have us stop there. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Xi Jinping, for being a good sport as always. Um, Roger, you want to just after this, you want to hop back on the same Zoom link?
Sure.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, guys. I'll see you next time.